Hello everybody, today we're going to be taking a look at part of the third way by Thomas Aquinas, which is his third argument for the existence of God. Before we begin, just a quick note, I won't be touching on any of the content on infinite regress or something that's necessary in itself rather than having its necessity derived of another. The reason for this is that that content is covered by everyone else in every video about arguments for the existence of God, and I don't think that it is necessary in this video to touch on that. I'll be touching on things that are unique to the third way. So first, we've got just the straight text of Aquinas. I'm just going to read it. It won't make very much sense, and then I'll go through some problems with it, and it'll start to become more clear. We find in nature that things are possible to be and not to be, since they are found to be generated and to corrupt, and consequently they are possible to be and not to be. This is just things are contingent. But it is impossible for these always to exist, for that which is possible to be at some time is not. Therefore, if everything is possible to be or possible not to be, then at one time there could have been nothing in existence. Now, if this were true, even now there would be nothing in existence, because that which does not exist only begins to exist by something already existing. Therefore, if at one time nothing was in existence, it would have been impossible for anything else to have begun to exist, and thus, even now, nothing would be in existence, which is absurd. Therefore, not all beings are merely possible, but there must exist something, the existence of which is necessary. Again, there's a short section after this text where he talks about a infinite regress of necessary things and whether necessity is intrinsic or derived. That's not our concern for this video. Next, what's happening here? There's a lot of weird language, so let's try to suss some of it out. First, sometime. One huge problem with understanding the third way is that it sounds like Aquinas is talking about times, which is very reasonable because that's the language he's using. He's talking about, or it sounds like he's talking about maybe times in the past, times in the future, etc. What's actually happening here is when he says some time, he's talking about some possible world. He just doesn't have the language to express it properly, so when he says some time, what he actually means is, okay, this is a way the world could be. Next, there is a second thing which is very important for us, which is that possibility is grounded in causal powers. Think about Bob. Bob is thirsty. Bob could drink water. Bob could drink boba. Bob could drink Sprite. All of these are possible for Bob. The reason they're possible is because Bob can walk over to the fridge and pull any of these three out and drink them. He has the causal powers to drink water, boba, or Sprite. So this is going to be very important for Aquinas' argument, because if there's a possible world that has nothing in it, then in that possible world, no causal powers exist. But if no causal powers exist, then nothing is possible. So if it's possible that nothing exists, then it's actually necessary that nothing exists. So with these revisions in mind, let's take a second attempt at the third way. We see that some things are contingent. It is impossible for contingent things to exist in every possible world. Therefore, otherwise they wouldn't be contingent. Therefore, if everything is contingent, then there is a possible world in which nothing exists. In a possible world where nothing existed, there would be no causal powers. Therefore, if everything is contingent, then there is a possible world with no causal powers. In a world with no causal powers, no other world would be possible, for possibility is grounded in causal powers. Therefore, if everything is contingent, then nothing could be possible, but the actual world is possible. Therefore, there is at least one non-contingent, i.e. necessary thing. That sounds a lot better. Suddenly, it's a lot easier to understand the argument. Suddenly, if you just read it through once or twice, everything clicks. If there's a possible world with nothing, then nothing could ever exist. But things exist, so that can't be a possible world. But there's still a problem, and that's actually invalidity. the early inference from the fact that everything is contingent to the fact that there's a possible world with nothing is actually invalid. It's not entailed, and you can see this very simply. Just think about this. Everything that exists is contingent. In every possible world, either Bob or Jim exists. Bob and Jim are both contingent. So is everything else. But every single world still has at least one being. Every single world has at least Bob or Jim, which means that it's possible for everything to be contingent, but there also be no possible world where nothing exists. The upshot of this is that we need to add one principle to Aquinas' argument to make it valid, which I think is very plausible, and that is the non-existence of any contingent thing does not entail the existence of some other contingent thing. So this would just be to say, if Bob didn't exist, that doesn't mean Jim had to exist, and that no set of such things could happen, where in every possible world either Bob exists or Jim exists. Okay, now we're equipped to try the third way one last time. The non-existence of one contingent thing does not entail the existence of any other contingent thing. Therefore, if everything is contingent, then there is a possible world where nothing exists. A possible world that contained nothing would have no causal powers. Possibility is grounded in causal powers. Therefore, if there is a possible world with no causal powers, then nothing would be possible. Therefore, if everything was contingent, nothing would be possible. But the actual world is possible. Therefore, there is at least one thing which is necessary. Thanks for watching.